Hi, my name is Rick Bloodworth. This is the inaugural video on the Common Sense Christian Financial channel. We're going to talk about a lot of things as applies to our financial life and specifically for the Christian. And while it's true that these principles are going to work for everybody, they're going to be particularly useful for those who are Christians, for those who recognize that they are servants of God and that they recognize first and foremost that their responsibility is to God and then towards everything else, including their financial well-being and their families and everything that goes along with our finances. Now, as far as what qualifies me to do this, I suppose there's a number of different areas that have gone into my preparation for this particular channel. I've preached for 30 years, but before that I was a real estate appraiser for a little over a dozen years. So I've owned my own business and run my own business. I've lived on a very nice income for a while, and then as a preacher I've lived on a very small income. And my wife and I were absolutely determined before we got married that if we had children, she would stay home and raise those children. And so we were very much on the same page, very much in agreement with this, and it was something that really did determine how we would approach our finances, because it was going to have to be on just one income. So for the most part, our income depended heavily upon what I was able to bring in. And the question I think a lot of people have today, especially as they're just starting out, is it even possible to do that? Do you not need two incomes in order to make a living? And the answer to that, hopefully, is something that we'll be going through as we go through these through this particular series on Christian finances. But I do want to say at the outset that it is possible to get by on just one income, but you do have to make certain sacrifices, and you have to have certain determinations in advance. Another one of the things that we're going to be talking about in these upcoming videos is investments. Even on a shoestring income, such as a preacher has, and maybe like you have as well, it is possible to set aside a little bit of money and begin an investment plan that will grow into something that will actually maybe surprise you as far as what you're able to save up and what you're able to accomplish financially on a shoestring budget. And so let's go ahead and talk about these very things. The principle that I want to begin with is found in Hebrews chapter 13 and verse 5. And it starts out by saying, keep your lives free from the love of money. This is going to be key, because if you are in love with money, you're probably not going to do very well with your finances, or at least you're not going to be able to do very well with your balance between your financial life and your spiritual life. They need to be one and the same. But if you love money, well, as God said, you can have no other gods before me. You're going to make that money or wealth or whatever it is that wealth can buy into a type of an idol to where your service to God is just not going to be effective. So the first thing is to keep your life free from the love of money. The second follows. It says, and be content with what you have. This may be one of the greatest secrets to life. There is nothing wrong with dreaming. There's everything right with wanting to better yourself and to do better, or at least to do as well as you can in all areas of your life that are important, and that includes your finances. So it's not going to be a sin to hope that you can advance yourself financially and maybe save up and do some things that you dream about doing. But you have to be content with where you are right now and be content with what you have. So often, especially young couples, get in over their head very quick. Maybe they've grown up in a nice middle or upper income family, and their parents who had worked all their life to get to a certain point had nice vehicles, they had nice homes, they had nice furnishing, they wore nice clothing, they were able to eat out several times a week. Well, this is the very type of a thing that often takes a lifetime of prudent handling of your finances to be able to get to that point, or you can try and take shortcuts. There's plenty of people in this world that will lend you money for everything from a mortgage to a car payment to whatever you want to buy on the credit card. And so many times young couples get in over their head very quickly, trying to not necessarily keep up with the Joneses, but to try and reproduce what they had in their mom and dad's house the first year of their marriage. And again, this may have taken their parents 30 years or more to get to this point, but the kids are used to that, and that's what they want. And so very often you'll see a couple enter into a marriage with 2 car payments, and very shortly after that they might buy a home that has a big mortgage on it. Well, that big home has to be furnished, and so you start borrowing on the credit cards, and maybe you go on a trip every now and again. Maybe you like to eat out several times a week at a nice place, and you just keep building up your balance on your credit card to the point where before you know it, you're not in a financial heaven, you're in a type of financial hell on earth. And so these are the types of things that we want to avoid, and the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you can learn to be content with what you have, not content with what your mom and dad had. You can grow into that just like they did, but take the time to save and to prudently approach these things that you want to have in your life. I'm absolutely convinced that we can please our Father who is in heaven in the way that we serve Him on a regular basis, in the way that we treat one another, in the way that we love our neighbor as ourselves, in the way that we develop a life that's pleasing to Him just in our spiritual growth, from everything from going to church on a regular basis to reading the Word on a regular basis. But if we can keep our lives free from the love of money and be content with what we have, we can be assured that God's going to help us along the way to get the things that we need. Maybe not everything that we want, but the things that we need. So, as we go through this series, this Common Sense Christian Financial series, we're very much going to be talking about the way that we handle our finances. That means we're going to be talking about things like budgets. We're going to be talking about things like setting aside the first part for God, whatever that first part is. You don't have to have the same percentage as your neighbor or what the people at church think that you ought to be giving. You just set aside the first part for God with whatever is keeping within your income and in a way that allows you to be cheerful in the giving of it, in a way that doesn't put you in over your head or stress your finances in a way that they don't need to be stressed. But again, we're going to be talking about that very thing, this giving in a biblical way. But we're also going to be talking about investments that you're going to hopefully be making at a very early stage in your life. It may very well be that you're not just starting out. It may be that you've been married for a long time, or the head of your single household for a long time, or maybe you're in a single household for the first time ever and you're struggling to make ends meet. Maybe you're already in over your head financially. Well, what do you do then? And again, we're going to be looking at this very thing as far as how you can get out of the hole that you've dug. Maybe it's a very deep hole that seems like it's impossible to ever climb out of. But I believe you will find, if you can apply Christian principles, that while it will not be easy to remedy the mistakes you may have made in the past when it comes to your finances, it is possible. And it is possible to do that with a minimum of stress. There are too many people, Christians included, who are just so overcome by their financial burdens that they just don't function well in the other areas of their life, whether we're talking about personal relationships with our families or our friends, or whether we're talking about our relationship with God. Because the worry about our money problems just seems to override everything else. And so we're going to be talking about some of those types of situations as far as how you might be able to get out of them, and as you are getting out of them, how you might be able to change your perspective in such a way as to where it's not such a crushing burden. There is no situation, financial or otherwise, that is impossible for you to get out of with God's help. But again, we're focusing on living as a Christian on this particular YouTube channel. And so, again, while some of the principles we'll look at will work for anybody in any walk of life, they really are aimed at people who are trying to be the best Christian that they can be, even though they're human and they fail from time to time, including in their finances. And so that's what this channel is going to be all about. We're going to talk about those who are starting out. We're going to talk about those who are well established and who may be wanting to make some prudent investments now. We're going to be talking about those who might find themselves in way over their head, who might think that they're just drowning in debt and might not realize that there really is hope if we do these things God's way. We can be very successful financially, but it cannot be the focal point of our life. The focal point of our life needs to be our service to God. And finances are a part of that service. Money is but a tool that we use in our service to God. Remember, in the big picture, we're all going to die someday, but then we're going to live eternally. Where you're going to live is going to be largely determined by how you use your resources today. Might we make some mistakes? Of course we might. Have you already made some mistakes? Well, if you're human, you have. Welcome to the club. But now what will you do? You get back and you now start using the resources God has given you to the best of your ability for the rest of your life. The one thing you don't want to do is to bury that. You don't want to divorce your financial side from your spiritual side, because even your finances are looked at by God as far as your service to Him. And so if we can do the best we can, though we're going to fail from time to time, many times in our life, if we'll continue to do our best with all the blessings God's given to us, including our money, someday we're going to hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant," because we're going to be successful if we are serving God to the best of our ability. And believe it or not, that means even with our money, in which we may have already failed miserably. Well, you can rescue that. You can get back on a better footing in life. You can reduce the stress that your financial difficulties have caused you, and you can get your focus back on those things that are truly important in life. If you'll do that, I believe you're going to find out that life is really good, that you are going to have enough money to do the things that God wants you to be able to do, and someday you're going to enter into the life that God has created you for in the first place. A lot of this is going to be determined on the way that we handle our money and our other resources. Will we make them an idol, or will we make them a tool in our service to God? We want to talk about doing our best to use our physical resources as a tool in our service to God. I believe that's going to make us much happier, and I know it's going to make us much more pleasing in His sight. Those are the things we're going to be talking about. Again, as far as my experiences go, I've spent a lot of time with finances through the years. I've done more than a little counseling with it with other people through the years. My schooling is in business, but my master's degree is in finance and economics, and so I have put a lot of study into this. Some of the results of that study may be beneficial to you, and if you find that to be the case, then I hope it's something that you can apply to your own life and be able to use your finances to the very best of your ability in the very best way possible. It's going to make a happier life for you, and it's certainly going to make you a better servant of God. Appreciate your tuning in today. Next time, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of all of this and talk about some specifics. But for now, I do appreciate your tuning in. I hope that you'll come back the next time that we meet. But until then, I pray that God will richly bless you as you seek to serve Him to the best of your ability, including in the way you handle your finances. Thanks for listening. God bless.